A lot of musicians secretly believe that if they are not exceptional, they probably do not stand a chance. If they are not one of the most gifted players in the room, one of the most original artists, one of the people who instantly stand out, then maybe music can never become something real. And I want to challenge that belief. Because when I started making money with music, I was not some extraordinary musician. I was not the most talented. I was not the most unique. I was not one of those people who walk into a room and immediately make everyone think, wow. I was a pretty average professional musician. Solid, capable, committed, good enough to do the job well, but not exceptional. Now, that doesn't mean it was easy. I worked a lot. There were times when I played 5 gigs in a single day. Sometimes it was 10 gigs in 3 days. And I remember moments where I had to learn around 25 new pieces of music within 3 weeks, completely from memory. It was intense. But that kind of repetition did something important. It made me a better musician. It made me faster, more confident, more adaptable. And maybe even more importantly, more people started to know me. More people had seen me play. More people trusted that I could deliver. And that led to more work. So even though I wasn't extraordinary, I was very present. Back then, I was playing in a band and we played a lot of gigs. Really a lot. Not glamorous gigs, not huge breakthrough moments, not the kind of shows most musicians dream about. A lot of them were small gigs. The kind of gigs many musicians overlook because they seem too small to matter. But for us, they mattered a lot because those gigs did not just give us money. They gave us repetition, they gave us visibility, they gave us real life experience, and they gave us momentum. And slowly, through many small opportunities, we became known. That was the key. It was not one big moment, it was not one lucky break, it was not one genius artistic move that changed everything. It was accumulation. One gig led to the next, or to the next two. More people saw us, more people talked, we became tighter as a band, we became more confident on stage, we became more familiar to people. And over time, that familiarity created opportunity. I think many musicians underestimate this. They are waiting for the big opportunity while their path might actually be built through many small ones. They think the career begins when the impressive moment happens, but often the real career begins much earlier. It begins when you start showing up consistently enough that people can actually build trust in you. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons for me. Being impressive is helpful, but being visible, reliable, and consistent is often much more important than people think. That does not sound very romantic, but it's real. People do not only pay for brilliance, they often pay for trust. They pay for something that feels solid, something they have seen before, something they understand, something that makes the decision easier. And small gigs gave us exactly that. Not status, not prestige, but trust. And I think this matters psychologically because a lot of musicians are still living inside a fantasy. The fantasy is if I become good enough, special enough, original enough, then something will happen. Someone will notice. Someone will discover me. Something will open. But in my experience, it was much less magical than that. It was more like show up, play well, do the next gig, take the opportunity seriously, let people see you, repeat, and over time that builds something real. There's also another piece I want to add here. Because I had a friend who made it in a very different way. What struck me about him was not that he was constantly talking about success, it was the way he carried himself. He did not wait for the outside world to give him permission to take himself seriously. In some sense, he was already living in alignment with where he wanted to go. Not in a fake way, not in a delusional way, not in that empty fake it till you make it sense, but in a deeper sense. He treated his work seriously. He treated his path seriously. He made decisions like someone who had already belonged in that future. And at one point he connected that to a Buddhist idea that really stayed with me. In Buddhist terms, the future is shaped by how you live and act in the present. I think that's exactly what he understood. And I know he is a Buddhist. He was not pretending he had already arrived. He was not performing success. He was living now in a way that was aligned with the future he wanted. And over time, reality seemed to catch up with the way he had already been living. That stayed with me, because many musicians are waiting to feel legitimate before they act legitimate. They wait for proof, they wait for confidence, they wait for recognition, they wait for more success before they allow themselves to fully step into the path. But sometimes growth works the other way around. Sometimes identity is to move first. And sometimes you have to start organizing your life, your energy and your behavior around the person you want to become before the evidence is fully there. Not by pretending, but by becoming congruent, by asking, how would I act if I truly believed in this path and that is real? How serious would I take my craft? What would I stop postponing? What would I do differently if I already believed I belonged here? I think that friend showed me something very important. Make it in music is not always just about skill. Sometimes it's also about identity, about whether you are already living in relationship with that future you want, or whether you are constantly waiting for permission. And for me, both experiences taught me something. In my case, the path was built through many small gigs, a lot of repetition, and slowly becoming visible in real spaces. In his case, the path was shaped by inner alignment, by living in a way that matched the person he wanted to become. Different paths, but both rooted in the same thing. Neither of us was waiting passively. And I think that was one of the most important messages I can give to musicians. You do not necessarily need to be extraordinary before you can start building something real. Sometimes you simply need enough skill paired with enough consistency for long enough. And that may be less glamorous than a dream. But it is very real. If you are a musician and part of you believes you are not special enough or talented enough to build something real, I hope this video gave you a different perspective. Sometimes the path is not brilliance first. Sometimes it is repetition, visibility, alignment, and the decision to take your path seriously before the world fully reflects it back. If that resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. That is what Music and Mind is about, helping musicians build healthier, clearer and more grounded relationship with music, work and themselves.